Is that bass in the background? Is that the one that used to have the Dead Kennedy sticker on it? Is that the life?
It's funny. So there's two. One is the one on that side is it's a USA custom shop. This one here is, this is the it's a reissue. It's one of my current signature models, and it's a reissue of the very first bass I bought from Grover. When I went out me and Dave went out there in 1987. Story. So go to see Judas Priest on the Turbo Lover tour or Turbo tour, right? In Los Angeles Sports Arena downtown. Me, Dave, Chris Bullitt, we go. Dokken is opening. Mm-hmm. Jeff Pilson is playing either a Jackson or Charvel. Has the best bass tone. I'm like, holy hell, this guy sounds good. And of course, I love Ian's playing. I love Ian's tone. So next day or so, I go to the Sunsets Strip Guitar Center, the big one there, and I'm looking for a Jackson. I see one on the wall. I pull it down. I plug it into a Gallion Kruger 800 RB head and into a stack of Harkeys. I think maybe a 410 and a single 15. Those at that time were pretty cutting edge because they were aluminum cone speakers. I plug in, start playing. A tone is born. I mean, it was just one of those magical moments. And so Dave and I drive out to, I believe, Milliken Avenue, way out past East LA, to the Grover. That was when Grover Jackson still owned Jackson. And I had him, Dave took a King B, which was Robin Crosby from Rat, right? So they call him the King. Yeah. So Dave turned his into a 24 fret that became a go-to for him for years. And then I had, this basically a version of this. Now it's interesting because Mike Shannon, who is one of the custom luthiers there and now has a custom shop here in Scottsdale because Fender, who owns Jackson, is based here literally 10 minutes up the road from me in Scottsdale. But he had the specs, and we were even looking at old pictures from the P-Cells tour because that was the first time I played this bass. I took it out on the kind of the last half of the P-Cells tour. And we were looking to make sure the knobs were right. We've upgraded the bridge, I guess, a little bit. We put EMGs in it instead of a Jackson pickup because I think at the time Jackson, now they have some pickups, but they really didn't have a pickup line at that time. But other than that, I mean, neck through the whole thing. So it has a place for a Dead Kennedy sticker if you do have one. We could, because it had the fuck the PMRC, Dead Kennedys, and like a skull, something. It was just
what I love is that's what Dave, Metal Dave here, that's what he was excited about. Oh wait, that's the bass that used to have the Dead Kennedy sticker on it.
Because I remember seeing photos of Dave in all the old music magazines, and I thought it was rad that he had this Dead Kennedy sticker because this was back when the punks and the metalheads were just starting to become friendly with each other, and you'd see a Dead Kennedy sticker on the bass player from Megadeth's bass. It really made an impact on me. It stood out. But I thought this was interesting what you just said, because I was going to say also that maybe it's just me, but I don't see a lot of bass players playing the Jackson basses. And so you're saying that we owe this to Jeff Pilson.
Totally. Oh, Jeff gets all the credit, man. And I told him that story too. He just laughed but it's dude, Jeff is a great bass player. He's an amazing songwriter and singer, right? I mean, dude, the Rockstar movie, right? It's killer. Yeah. He's a great player, cool guy. So isn't that funny that and it's funny, out of all those bands, I love Dokken. I love Dokken, I love Rat, Motley, of course, but Dokken, there was something kind of special about them. And then Jeff was a big part of that sound, vocally and everything. So so for me, when I came back to Megadeth in 2010, right away, my friend Brian McDonald, who was doing artist relations there, big Megadeth fan. And he literally 5 minutes after the press release went out, he texted me, he goes, "Now can we finally make that Jackson bass for you?" Because he'd been talking to me about doing it for years. And I said, yeah, let's do it. So he brought me back into the fold. Nick Bocott from Grim Reaper, See You in Hell, My Friend, fame, was also working artist relations at the time for Jackson. And he's the one who said, he goes, in his British accent, he goes, "Jackson needs a face." an ambassador, and David Ellefson is that face, you know? So that really kind of set the marching orders of it. And, you know, the last 10, 11 years now, we've developed, at one point, I think I had something like 12 SKUs of basses, and I still have them all, you know, between that one, I did a 30th anniversary. I don't have it here. I shipped it off already to California for the tour, but the 5-string, it was the first 5-string that I developed with Jackson. So I could play the song Hangar 18 on the Peace Cells tour, on the Rustic Peace tour.
Wow.
So that's now in production. They're kind of brother and brother, those two. But yeah, there's, you know, we've developed a ton of basses. We've sold a bunch of basses. I like to think we've had, you know, one of the better, more successful signature bass lines of not just a bass, but like a family of instruments for, you know, rock. We even did like kind of a more traditional kind of Fender P-bass style, kind of a hybrid that like I think at NAMM a couple of years ago, when we rolled it out, won like, you know, best new bass of NAMM show and stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's been a fun journey.
Congrats.
Yeah. I've never had the chance to actually tell you to your face this little bit. Your tone is amazing, but your playing is also amazing.
Thank you.
Also have this. I play bass with a pick. You play bass with a pick. Jason Newsted is another one of my sort of guys that I love his fucking bass playing. And it's not just because, we all play with a pick. You know, Chris Squire, Paul McCartney, Gene Simmons, Lemmy. You go on, there's all these bad, you know, Geezer Butler can do both. You know, it's important for people to realize that this isn't always what the bass means.
No, not at all.
Tonally, aesthetically, even air bass. No one plays air bass. I play air bass. You know, it's important to see the perspective of a nerdy fan. Like,
it is.
Shit, all of us, all three of us in here. But there's something about your playing that I've always appreciated, and it's not, I wouldn't say lead bass, but you're writing some riffs. Jason Newsted is writing some fucking riffs, and it's important to know that that's not always the bass player's job, is to write a riff. It's usually the bass player's job to stab cymbal chokes, and, you know, once the song gets engaged, you're playing roots and maybe playing 3s and 5s with it. That's a bass player.
Right.
So when you think about that process, once again, I'm leading right back to the same place. Your bass playing is appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because
I've never been able to tell you that. It's not a kiss ass, because obviously I'm throwing about 5 or 6 other people in there to literally let our listeners understand that it's coming from somewhere. And I know you're a fan of all of those players as well.
100%. In fact, I remember when we used to come out here on the Killing Is My Business, and then I guess maybe the first time on the Peace Cells tour, we played twice at a little club here called the Mason Jar, which was like the place. It was kind of like the back room in Austin, right? It was that was that place. And
might have even, if this is possible, it may have even been dirtier than the back room.
Yeah, for sure it was. Yeah, for sure it was. And I remember, Flotsam would open for us. Jason was, and that's when I could tell he was a real leader, you know, like Jason. That's why I knew when he joined Metallica, you know, now he's not the boss. He's kind of the new guy. And I think he got hazed a lot. And, you know, they've talked about it a lot now, you know, about just that sort of initiation into the big boy club. But, you know, fundamentally, Jason is a, great player, writer. And, you know, that's why I can understand his need to have some other creative outlets at a certain point. And that's a tough thing, because when you're in U2, AC/DC, Metallica, you know, the biggest bands in the land, right? I mean, really the biggest. You know, it's hard. I remember Jason had a great quote. He said, "We're like a fist, and a fist packs a bigger punch with 4 fingers than if it's 1 finger," I won't do that one, "on its own," right? So, and I thought that was a great analogy, because, you know, 4 individuals coming together, you know, it packs a freaking punch. And yet, you know, after you're in a band, and I went through it, you know, being in Megadeth for decades, and, you know, you and every band has there's a role. I was talking to Charlie Benante from Anthrax about this one time, because he said, he goes, when bands have roles, and the members have to play that role. And if they can't, they might have to be removed and get someone else in who can play that role. And yet at the same time, some groups are very collaborative. Usually, as you know, it's one or two people that kind of do most of the collaborating and writing, and the others are bit participants, if at all. And it's why, you see Judas Priest on your shirt there. Ian seems to be comfortable as a guy not writing. And as I've read KK's book and getting to know him, and Glenn Tipton's even talked about it in interviews, it was always an open door for him to write, apparently, but he just didn't write or didn't bring anything to it. Or maybe he doesn't write that kind of music. Maybe he's a jazz musician. Who knows,